Good day, everyone and listeners. Welcome to Ahmad Gate Radio Communications, where we dive into the most pressing global topics of our time. I am Babashokoye Majekudumi, and today we explore a fascinating subject at the intersection of sport, politics, and human rights. The topic for today is sport diplomacy, human rights, international relations. Sport, as we all know, is more than a game. It's a tool for diplomacy, a platform for human rights advocacy, and a powerful force in shaping international relations. Sport diplomacy refers to the use of sports as a platform to foster dialogue, build bridges, and enhance mutual understanding between nations. It can promote peace, yes. Sporting events like the Olympics and the FIFA World Cup often provides neutral ground for dialogue. For example, the North and South Korea joint Olympic teams have showcased sports as a mechanism for reducing tension. While sports can be a unifying force, they often expose human rights challenges. Labor rights and mega events such as the construction for stadiums at the Qatar World Cup has been criticized for exploitative labor practices, particularly involving migrant workers. Gender equality and inclusion. Yes, sport diplomacy has highlighted gender inequality and discrimination. For example, campaigns like Equal Play, Equal Pay have highlighted disparities in professional sport. And there's also the freedom of expression. Several athletes have used their platforms to promote sport diplomacy, human rights, and international relations, advocating for justice, equality, and global peace. Some of the most influential figures that we can all attest to: Muhammad Ali. He refused to be drafted into the U.S. military, citing opposition to the Vietnam War and racial injustice. He was stripped of his boxing titles, but he remained steadfast in his beliefs. Muhammad Ali, as we all know, was Cassius Clay. This is lauded as a remedy by government, but as we all know, it can be a powerful tool diplomatically that can reduce estrangement and promote sustainability, development, and dialogue. Now, there's an issue with the U.S. government on LGBTQ, which stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer. This is causing a major issue in the U.S. that because of President Trump's executive order on LGBTQ. I mentioned Muhammad Ali earlier, and I also mentioned Pelé, the Brazilian football legend. His real name was Edson Arantes do Nascimento. Allegedly, he stopped a war when he came to Nigeria in 1969, the Biafran War, demonstrating the unifying power of sports, UNESCO and UNICEF, while he was working with them, advocating for children's rights, education, and global peace. Billie Jean King, too, was a legend in tennis before Serena Williams took over. I'm sorry, I'm a fan of Serena Williams. I apologize for that. And she also fought for gender equality, rights for equal pay in sport, which the U.S. female team are still fighting for. Yes, they are legends in the FIFA World Cup because they won more than any other country, and the men's team still gets paid more than them. But diplomacy cannot be paid. Now, let's look at this Chinese basketball player called Yao Ming. He played in the NBA, and he was an ambassador of the NBA to China. And we all know the tensions between China and the US. He promoted basketball in China, bringing athletes, and he was an ambassador of the China Olympics in 2008. The power of diplomacy cannot be undermined in sport. It brings people together from different races, different backgrounds, different ethnicities. You are an Asian, you are an American, you are European, you are an African. You vibe with sport. It brings people together in that time, or at that time, sorry. One person I would mention now, and it was a global force, if I can use that word, Nelson Mandela. He effectively used sports diplomacy as a tool for national reconciliation, human rights advocacy, and strengthening international relations for South Africa. His efforts, definitely, particularly through rugby, which they hosted in 1995 and they won. Soccer in 1996, the Nations Cup, which they won, and Nigerians will say it was because they didn't participate due to our leader then, General Sonny Abacha, and other major sporting events which showcased South Africa to the world, especially the 2010 World Cup, being the first in the continent, which is Africa. One of Mandela's most famous acts of sport diplomacy was during the 1995 World Cup hosted by South Africa, which I mentioned earlier, and they won. At that time, South Africa was emerging from apartheid, and rugby was historically seen as a sport associated with the white Afrikaner population in South Africa then. Mandela saw it as an opportunity to use rugby to unify the nation by publicly supporting the Springboks and also wearing their jersey during the final match. He sent a powerful message of reconciliation. This acted as a bridge that helped the racial divides and fostered a sense of national unity. Similarly, Mandela supported the South Africa's successful bid to host the 2010 World Cup, the first ever, like I said earlier, in Africa. The tournament was a platform to showcase South Africa's progress and promote its integration into global community and years of isolation due to apartheid. Mandela too was a staunch advocate for human rights. His approach to sport diplomacy also reflected these values. During the apartheid, South Africa was banned from international sports competitions, including Olympics, FIFA World Cup, due to his racial policies. Mandela understood the power of sport both as a sanctioning tool and as a means of rebuilding the country's image once apartheid ended. I can also gladly say Bill Russell, an NBA legend who won 11 rings. As we all know, rings, other sports use these medals, but in the United States, they use rings. He won 11 rings with the Boston Celtics, while also adding it to 5 MVP titles with the Boston Celtics also. He was a global ambassador for basketball. His success, particularly as the first black superstar in the NBA, helped break racial barriers in professional sports. First black head coach in the major US sports. In 1966, Bill Russell, God rest his soul, became the first black head coach in a major American professional sport. He even took part in the historic event where Dr. Martin Luther King delivered his I Have a Dream speech, aligning himself with the fight for racial equality. He refused to play in segregated cities. He boycotted games in cities that practice segregation, making it clear that he would not support racial discrimination in any form, and which he stood by till his dying day. We can all see that sport diplomacy it has a major part to do in international, and governments are using it as a tool for their successes. Would I say success? Maybe, but they are using it as a factor for them to unify their citizens. No matter where sports is being played, be it football, basketball, fans will unite. You can be an Asian, you can be a German, you can be an European, but sports is a unifying factor which I believe must be tapped into. It is a powerful diplomatic tool, but it is not really tapped into. We also have the cases of political boycotts. Countries have historically used sports to make political statements. For example, the US boycotted the 1980 Moscow Olympics due to the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, and the USSR retaliated by boycotting the 1984 Olympics in Los Angeles. Recognition and non-recognition. Some nations refuse to compete against teams from countries they don't recognize. Politically, some nations that were accused of human rights abuses often host major events to distract people or the worldwide world from their records and improve their image, as seen in Saudi Arabia investments in sports, like golf and soccer. With platforms like social media, athletes have become prominent voices for human rights. Take for example, LeBron James. In the NBA, when they wore, it wasn't only him though, when they wore the t-shirt Black Lives Matters, which was a major standpoint then, and is stood for racial abuse, for sport diplomacy to positively influence international relations and human rights. There are major facts and major things to do, if I can use things. Transparency and accountability. Like I said in my last episode, FIFA, organizations like FIFA and the IOC, including FIA, which is for Formula One, tennis, all sports, you have to have the transparency and accountability, because fans, if you are a fan, you are a fan. I'm a fan of football, I'm a fan of basketball, I'm a fan of Formula One, I'm a fan of tennis. They need to enforce stricter standards for labor rights, inclusivity, and ethical governance. And athletes must be protected. Rights to speak out, it can't be undermined. They need to speak out. It is, yes, we all have our notions about the social media. It's a blessing, yes. It is also a curse, yes. Because some see it as an avenue to do whatever they want to do, and some see it as a tool to rise. And the power of sport is extreme. Let's look at the Olympic Games. It is broadcasted to over 220 countries and territories, not to talk of athletes' participation in the opening ceremony, which is everybody wants to watch. Let's take for example the late Kobe Bryant. Beijing Olympics, he was at a celebrity, or if there's a word over celebrity, it was at a legend status in China. People were fainting when they saw him, and he was an advocate too, and a major advocate for the WNBA, which is the female basketball in the US. He was a major advocate. Nobody stood for the WNBA like he did. God rest his soul, his daughter, and the people that lost their lives in the helicopter crash. The Institute of Sport and Diplomacy are universal in scope, nature, and working in tandem can spread positive sporting values such as mutual respect, discipline, balance, and compassion among acrimonious political relationships. If you look at that, there's a Premier League player. He plays for Arsenal now. He was in Man City before. His name is Zinchenko. He's an Ukrainian player. The whole of Premiership is the football league in England, supported him, or they felt his pain when Man City won the league. Man City is Manchester City, the other side of Manchester United. They supported him when they won the league based on the invasion of Russia in Ukraine. We cannot underline the power of sport, because, like I would use an example, in Nigeria, a Yoruba man, an Hausa man, and an Igbo man, they might be fighting before, they might have issues before, but when it comes to football, it's a unifying factor, if I can use that word. It brings everyone together, not only football. It brings everyone together. You're a fan of Chelsea, you're a fan of, okay, let's use Borussia Dortmund as an example. Their stadium is one of the loudest. It is called Signal Iduna Park, which in German, Westphalia Stadium. It's a very, very loud stadium which intimidates opponents. Also in England, there's Liverpool, which is called Anfield. The noise they make, the fans make, you'll be intimidated as an opponent to even go there. That is part of what sports diplomacy and looking at sports as a tool for government. Yes, they might take advantage of it. Governments might take advantage of it because sports unifies the population, but it also has to be respected and honored, while transparency and accountability also goes into stakeholders also being interested. Many organizations, yes, we know FIFA has Coca-Cola, they have Budweiser, UEFA has Heineken and the likes, But accountability and being transparent will bring many, many more investors, even individuals. There was a time Dangote was interested in buying the football club called Arsenal in England. Yes, well, maybe because he was a black man. No, I don't know. But really, accountability, even in our daily life, once you are not accountable, you are not transparent. Even your friends, and the friends I mean is not, they are not friends that, okay, when things are going well for you, you see them. When things are not going well, you won't see them. I mean true friends. Once you are not transparent, including family too, once you are not transparent and they can't hold you accountable for something, they will gradually pull away, which is not right. So that goes for all sporting organizations, sporting clubs, even clubs. Management has to be, it doesn't need to be perfect, but no one is perfect. We are all humans. We can't be perfect. It's only God that is perfect. Sports diplomacy cannot be undermined. It is lauded as a remedy by government, a largely, and I'll repeat, largely untapped yet powerful tool for diplomats in the diplomatic circle. It is very, very powerful, but it is not tapped to the extent it should be. Thank you all for listening to me and sacrificing your time for me. And I also look forward to having you next Saturday for another episode in sports leadership and global affairs. Thank you once again. And we at Ahmad Gate, we run programs all through the week, 5 p.m. and 11 a.m. East African ET. We at Ahmad Gate are all about integrity. We are on Facebook, LinkedIn, and on YouTube. Mixed LR, yes, we are there. Please join us on all our episodes, and I trust you won't regret. And most of all, keep your notebooks and your pen beside you, because they are all educative and interesting programs. What we preach and what we do at Ahmad Gate, we practice what we preach. Thank you, and God bless you for listening. I wish you all a great weekend. Happy New Month.